Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another week and another edition of the Royal Ramble. I'm your host, Blaine the Brain, and there is a lot to cover on this very special Sunday, including a big interview coming up later on. So I'm going to get right into it, starting with a recap of last night's UFC event from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The heavyweights came out in full force for their opening bout, as did Joe Rogan, who made his triumphant return after missing the previous UFC event. But Greg Hardy and Sergey Spivak opened the show. I thought Spivak, who is not well known to the mass audience, looked very good here. He scored a number of takedowns in the opening round, and keep in mind that Hardy is a heavyweight. He's no small man, so that's no easy feat. But Spivak eventually got into a top position and dropped some bombs which were able to claim him the victory. The welterweight bout between Alex Cowboy Oliveira and Kevin Holland, who made his debut at 170, was a very explosive one. Much like Spivak in the first round, Oliveira executed some nice takedowns in the first round and almost got the rear naked choke, but Holland gave the thumbs up to signal that he was okay. Whether he was or he wasn't, it was irrelevant because he may have been saved by the buzzer. But Holland was able to bounce back in the second with a knockdown and then swarmed on Oliveira for the quick TKO victory. And then in his post-fight interview, as subtle as it was, it sounded like Holland identified Donald Cerrone as his next potential victim. Unless there is another cowboy at welterweight that I may be overlooking. Remember when Edson Barbosa nearly kicked Terry Edams' head into the front row back in 2012? It was one of the most devastating knockouts that I had ever seen. But what's he done since then? Well, he squared off with Bryce Mitchell last night, and things didn't turn out as well for him in the early going, as Mitchell quickly took him down and Barbosa pulled full guard. Barbosa eventually got back to his feet to close out the round, but the opening seconds of round 2 didn't go any better for him than the opening round, as he was quickly taken down again and ended up in the exact same position. Barbosa took a lot of damage in this round. He had a huge cut opened up over his left eye, and it didn't seem like his luck would be changing anytime soon. Mitchell was able to pass Barbosa's full guard into half and continued just dropping very calculated bombs on him and ended the round with some stiff leg kicks while Barbosa remained on the ground. Barbosa started listening to his corner and tried to stand and trade shots with Mitchell. It was going well in the early going, but Mitchell eventually scored another takedown to back into full guard. Barbosa tried a Hail Mary triangle choke, but it was quickly countered by Mitchell, who slammed him down to get out of it. Mitchell just dominated every round of this fight, thus earning himself a unanimous decision victory. And in an act of true class, Mitchell offered up $45,000 of his earnings and mentioned in his post-fight interview with Joe that he would be donating that amount to a children's charity in Arkansas. More takedowns were well executed in the opening round of the next fight. It was a catchweight bout between Rafael dos Anjos and Renato Moicano, and dos Anjos quickly ended up in a top position. Dos Anjos scored a massive head kick in the third round which floored Moicano, who I think everyone had counted out at that point, as dos Anjos just started dropping bombs on him, but to Moicano's credit, he was able to weather the storm to continue moving forward. Moicano's left eye was swollen shut by the start of round 4, and this fight was in danger of being stopped, but at the discretion of both the ref and fight doctor, this one was allowed to continue. The fight was again in danger of being stopped at the start of round 5, but again permitted to continue, which I'm not so sure was the best decision for Moicano's health. I gotta say, much respect to Renato Moicano for his amazing display of courage. His face was totally destroyed, but he finished this fight in explosive fashion with a flurry of offense and definitely won the crowd over with his inspiring performance. Dos Anjos did win the unanimous decision, but I think an argument can certainly be made for a rematch here. This one felt like Rocky Balboa versus Apollo Creed. And then it was the big one. The crowd was solidly in favor of Colby Covington here, at least in the early going. It looked like Masvidal attempted the pump knee that made quick work of Ben Askren, but Covington was ready for it and was able to dodge. He got the back of Masvidal and attempted a rear naked choke, but Masvidal wisely turned to face him and was able to escape. As Covington continued to work from the back, suddenly a Jorge chant broke out. Covington tried for another takedown in round 2, but was met with a series of elbow strikes. The fight was then briefly stopped after an apparent low blow by Covington. Masvidal came back with a knee that cut Covington above his left eye. Covington again got Masvidal's back and attempted another rear naked choke, but Masvidal was quickly able to get back to his feet. Covington dominated from there up until the final minute of the fourth round, when Masvidal rocked him with a huge overhand left and another flurry of strikes, but to Covington's credit, he was able to push through and make it to the end of the round. Covington displayed more dominance in the final round. He continued working the back and tried to get the rear naked choke, but was unable to finish the fight. He did, however, earn the unanimous decision victory, but it wasn't over there, as he was quick to focus on his next potential opponent, aggressively calling out Dustin Poirier in his post-fight interview. So that was the UFC, but it's now time to leave the past behind us and focus on the future. And the future is tonight. The future is AEW. That's right, folks. It's AEW Revolution coming at us from the Edition Financial Arena in Orlando. I sat down earlier this week with my good friend from the SNME radio group, Dan the Mouth Lovranski, to preview that very event. And just in case of any confusion, our chat took place Friday evening before Rampage hit the air. So take a listen. Okay, so before we talk about the pay-per-view, we need to talk about the major development, of course, this past week. Tony Khan dropping the bombshell Wednesday night that he had purchased Ring of Honor Wrestling. So two-part question here. You did kind of go through your overall thoughts on the acquisition in your own podcast. But first of all, what would you like to see them do with ROH? And also, do you think it was a wise decision to make this blockbuster announcement on a pay-per-view go-home show?
That's a good question in terms of that. I mean, it might have been better if you did save it for after the pay-per-view. But you know what Tony Khan is like? I think he was probably just so excited that the deal had been put together. And, you know, he loves to do his big announcements, right? That seems to be a big thing for him. But that is a good point. I don't know if it really hurts the pay-per-view because unlike WWE, everything was set in place. Like, the go-home show was good on Wednesday. It was very good.
Right.
But by the same token, everything's pretty well in place, right? This was just they were just mostly keeping you interested and building for the pay-per-view. So it didn't bother me that much. The only thing that bothered me is that Khan seemed somewhat flustered out there. He didn't, like, I don't know if he was so excited that he was just so excited he kept tripping over his words, but I thought I don't know, it was weird. It was like a little kid out there or something.
Yeah, like I kind of got that sense too. And it kind of surprised me because I had read after he made that announcement, I had read that this deal had actually been in place for a couple of weeks. So I was just kind of surprised that he chose the day before, or the week leading into the pay-per-view to make that announcement.
Honestly, I think he's really just trying to keep momentum going for the promotion, right? And again, for his hardcore audience that he has already, you know, locked in, this is huge, right? This is huge. And it's a great acquisition. And I love the fact that he got it and not McMahon. That's the thing I like most about it. And honestly, I mean, look at it. I mean, Ring of Honor, like everybody pretty well on the AEW roster was in Ring of Honor and were major stars in Ring of Honor.
Exactly.
Not just they were there. They were all big stars. So it's great for him to start up the streaming service now. But I think that's all you should do. Like, I'm with Joe on this one. I just don't really think having a separate promotion or farming it out to somebody else to run it, I think that's too much. I think he needs to focus on AEW. You've got all that talent. I think just use it as the library, set it up so, you know, okay, you want to see the best of Punk and Ring of Honor, here it is. Here's the best of Bryan Danielson, here's Adam Cole, whatever. You know what? I think it's cool because that's where Adam Page really kind of gets his start. I remember him doing that long program with BJ Whitmer in Ring of Honor. So it really, really works to their advantage, but that's all I would do is I would take the library and I wouldn't try to set up a promotion, or I wouldn't even do spot shows like Ring of Honor talked about when they first closed down. I wouldn't really do. I would maybe try and get some of the other talents if they want to come in, although, you know, as we say, he's got so much talent as it is.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think take the library. The curious thing I would love to know is how much did he pay? I'd love to know, because as we know, McMahon got WCW for a steal, right?
Right, exactly,
like
yeah.
$2.2 million or some ridiculous thing. So I'm curious how much Khan actually paid for this, and did it get to a point where WWE just dropped out and thought, no, it's not worth it? Which is kind of weird, because Vince so wants to control wrestling history, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, looking at the card for Revolution, it is a stacked one, as we've seen in the leading weeks. So we'll start with the six-man trios tornado match. Given how explosive the rest of this card looks, does it surprise you that guys like Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara are relegated to a six-man, which will probably be the opener, as opposed to having a singles match for the TNT title?
Well, they've obviously got something planned, because they're doing the title match on Rampage, right?
Right.
Like, it's going to be Sammy and Darby on Rampage before the pay-per-view. So they must have some sort of storyline worked out. I don't know if it's going to end up one of them screws the other in the tag match. I'm not sure what happens. But it is kind of weird. To me, I thought this was asked backwards. I thought the tag should have been on Rampage, and then the title shot be on the pay-per-view. That makes more sense to me. But I'm guessing they must have some sort of storyline thing worked out that they want to do, and they want to do the title match first.
Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley has been picked by wrestling historians such as Dave Meltzer and by Joe actually as well, Joe Aguinaldo yesterday, to be match of the night. And it could very well be. What kind of match?
Blaine, there could be 5 matches of the night on this show.
That's what it looks like.
Like this show is insane. This show is insane. There are so many great matches that are not only going to be great in the ring, but they've got strong stories attached to them. There's only one match that I'm not looking forward to.
Oh, I know what that one is.
I'm sure you know what it is, exactly.
So, what kind of match are you expecting out of these two?
Out of Danielson and Moxley? It's going to be insane. I think it's going to be really hard-hitting. I mean, Moxley was saying how violent Bryan is, and he likes to see the violence, and he's always, the violent style wrestler. I think it's going to be crazy. I mean, there might be some mat stuff off the beginning, maybe, but I suspect this one is crazy. And I suspect they'll be brawling all over the place. Yeah, I expect it to be kind of crazy. It's weird, though, because you also have the Punk and MJF, which totally screams crazy, and blood. And this one kind of screams blood, too. And we know how AEW is with blood. Sometimes they just get too carried away. But I think we're going to see color in both that match and Punk and MJF. Yeah,
for sure. I think both of them kind of call for that. That type of match as well, but I just hope that they separate them in that case.
Yeah, right, exactly. Don't put them side by side on the pay-per-view. Good point. Yes, yeah.
The promos between Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho have been on fire lately heading into their match. What have you thought about the positioning of Eddie Kingston being matched up against other babyfaces lately, and making said babyfaces like a CM Punk or a Chris Jericho out to be the heels in their feuds?
Well, you know what it is? It's just people love Eddie Kingston. I love Eddie Kingston. I can't take him as a heel. I really don't see it. He's too funny. Ever since he came out and did that one promo early on where he was talking about the Acclaimed, and he said, yeah, one guy's a rapper, and the other guy's a rapper's friend. I'm like, the guy's hilarious. So it's pretty easy for him to be a babyface. The only thing with this was the one criticism I had on Dynamite this week, is why did we not get an Eddie Kingston promo this week?
Right.
We got Jericho, and that's fine. I mean, but I really wanted to hear from Eddie Kingston, unless they're going to do something on Rampage tonight, which maybe they will. But I really wanted to have there should have been an Eddie Kingston promo on that show.
Absolutely.
Especially as you said, the promos have been very good back and forth. I like the storyline. I like the way Santana and Ortiz are in it. I like the little tease that they did on Wednesday, where they came out and they actually fist bumped Jericho, but then they walked away.
Right.
So it's cool. It's interesting to see what happens, and it's also interesting to see if this is one and done, because that does happen a lot in AEW. So does the feud with Kingston and Jericho continue, or will this be it and that's it?
Yeah, I mean, I've myself pointed out, as you know, on the Facebook group, that a lot of their feuds are seemingly one and done, but except for when Chris Jericho is involved. So I'm hoping that you're right in that case.
Right.
And I was hoping that the Punk feud would have continued with Kingston, because it seems like they have more of a history.
Right. Well, yeah, and then again, yeah, great story. Like, great story for that feud, right? Like, the way that AEW has embraced just the right amount of reality to fit in with the programs. Like, they're so smart using the history of these guys. And having someone like Eddie Kingston, you didn't give me the time of day. Like, it's just, there's so much. These guys are also intertwined with each other through the years, and it's really great to see AEW play on that and not ignore it, right? And so yeah, it's just we'll have to see with Eddie, but I think him and Jericho will probably continue too. At least I hope so.
Oh, so of course the one that everyone has been looking forward to is the collar match, of course, between CM Punk and MJF. I believe you missed, actually, the episode where Joe recapped the promo to set this match up. So I just wanted to get your thoughts, first of all, on that whole setup angle, and especially the "Will you be my Valentine" line.
Oh, that was great! Are you kidding? Again, I have such problem. Like, remember when AEW first started, and their biggest demo they couldn't seem to get is guys my age. And I just I cannot understand that, because Joe and we talk about it, it's like, this is old school 101. Like, I can't believe that older guys don't appreciate what they're doing. Maybe it's because it's wrapped in a new paint job and there are a lot of younger guys and stuff like that, but man, they are so great. And this is a classic example, resurrecting something that old school fans and hardcore fans know about, the Greg Valentine Piper dog collar match. And I thought that was a great line on Punk's part to say that about "Will you be my Valentine." The whole thing with Punk and MJF has just been such another level. I mean, again, making use of real history. When he had that shirt on Wednesday and he busted open Punk, and smeared tremendous. The blood right across the picture. Oh my God! Like that is just such an amazing image. Like, if you're not interested in that match after that, then you're dead. Check your pulse, because you're dead. Because it's just. I think the whole thing has just been absolutely outstanding. I love the way we look like Punk getting kind of sucked in by MJF's kind of sentimentality and even questioning whether he's the bad guy, and then Punk just totally luring, or MJF luring him right in, kicking him in the nuts. Like, this is going to be nuts. And you've got the Wardlow stuff. Like, everybody's like, when's Wardlow going to turn? When's Wardlow going to turn? Like, it's all been really well thought out. They let things build. They create things that you actually are interested in seeing, not, there's no ridiculous characters like a Nigerian prince, or it's so much more well done. And I think drawing on history like that is always smart. Again, with this audience.
How do you expect these guys to work around the limitation of being attached at the neck by a chain?
I don't think that's an issue. I think these two guys are smart enough. They'll think it out. They'll work it out. It was no hindrance when Valentine and Piper did it. It's just got that over-the-top brutality, right? Like wrapping a chain around your fist and punching the guy in the face, and being attached to each other so the other guy can't run away. Like, I think it's going to be crazy. I think both guys are going to do Insane Color. Like, absolutely. I mean, look at the color Punk did off a shot from the ring on Wednesday.
That was crazy.
I actually thought that was too much. I'm like, come on, he just hit him once with the ring. His whole face was covered in blood. But yeah, those two guys, it'll be great. It'll be intense. They'll give it time to build. Like, I don't think there'll be any real limitations. I don't think those two guys will feel limited doing this. I think they'll do more. They'll know what to do to make it exciting for the crowd.
Who are you picking to win here?
Now that's the other great thing about AEW is that wins and loses a lot of the time are not obvious. Like WWE, most of the time it's very obvious. And this one, really, I mean, I guess if MJF is poised to take on the title, he should win. And I'm sure Punk doesn't have trouble putting him over, because this is an example, though, of a young guy that deserves a push. Like, MJF may only be, whatever it is, 25.
Right.
But he deserves it. He's proven that he can be up there with the top guys. It's weird, because Punk's got the upper hand so much in the program, so you really kind of want to see the babyface come out strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one, because it really could go either way depending on what next story you want to do next.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a tough one. I can't give you an answer. I mean, if they're going to go MJF towards the title, then he wins. If not, maybe Punk gets a win, because MJF's had, the upper hand the whole time, right?
Yeah, very true. And the only thing is, because they have been teasing this thing with Wardlow and MJF and some dissension there, so I don't know if they go to that directly, or if they continue teasing until after his title program.
That one is so hard. Again, I don't really want that involved in this match. I hope they don't do anything with the Wardlow situation with this, where, I don't know, he comes out to help and, I don't know, something happens, or Punk corks, or MJF corks him by mistake, or whatever, but I don't think it should happen here. I really kind of liked the scenario of Wardlow winning the TNT title, and then going to present it to MJF and just corking him with it instead of giving him the belt. So I'm not really sure. Because they built it so much, and I thought they were going to pull the trigger several times already, I don't know. I'm not sure if they will. I kind of would like to see that TNT scenario. I think it would be really interesting to have someone like Wardlow win the ladder match, because you've got all these big guys in the ladder match anyways.
Right.
It would be interesting to have him win, and he fights Sammy, he beats him, and he goes to present it to MJF, and then he just corks him with it, and that's it. And then maybe you have a mini feud with MJF and Wardlow before MJF goes to the title. I don't know. It's a tough one. There's a lot of intricate parts here, and I'm not sure where they want to go, which is great. That's what makes it fun to watch, because you don't know where they want to go.
Yeah, so that kind of actually leads into my next question. I was going to ask about the ladder match. You kind of answered a bit of the question already, but that is another gimmick match on the card, is the Face of the Revolution ladder match for a shot at the TNT Championship. Does it surprise you that half the field in this match is made up of heavy hitters as opposed to the high-flying lighter wrestlers?
Absolutely. I was very shocked when the first three guys are Wardlow, Hobbs, and who's the other one?
Keith Lee.
Oh, Keith Lee. So I'm like, I was really surprised. And now who else is in it? Orange Cassidy.
They got Ricky Starks, and then the winner of the Christian and Ethan Page match.
Yeah, which I would hope would be Ethan Page. Although Christian has the ladder match history, and maybe they want someone in there like him to kind of lead the match, like kind of be the ring general. I'm not sure. But when you have three big guys like this, I think one of them has to win. Like, to me, it seems kind of ridiculous. But we'll see. I like it because it's different. It's different. Like, how often do you see? Usually you see one big guy in a ladder match so he can throw around some of the other guys in that, right? But three? Like, that's pretty amazing. And I'm intrigued by the idea of Christian being in it, too. Although I think, again, Ethan Page is someone that deserves a push. He's really got the short end of the stick, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
At his time in AEW. And he is moving to the States permanently.
I've heard,
so I would hope that means they're thinking about doing more with him.
What's
your pick for the ladder match? Like, what are you thinking? I could see, honestly, I think Wardlow's going to win it.
That was my initial thought as well, but then I thought that, initially I thought that there was supposed to be a wild card in this match. But then I wasn't aware of the Christian and Ethan Page match until recently. So I thought this would be the opportunity to debut someone like Jeff Hardy, who I've heard has been rumored. But yeah, I think either Wardlow or Keith Lee, I think, would be the obvious choices here.
Yep, I think so, and I think it would be neat to have a big guy win a ladder match, right? So, and certainly, yeah, Keith Lee, he needs kind of a big program, because he's kind of, unfortunately, coming in with a bit of WWE taint on him. They booked him so horribly.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of fans, they always get, they have this weird thing when someone from WWE comes in and it's someone that wasn't used, they call them a cast-off or whatever, and I hate that.
Right.
Because that's not true. The guy's getting a whole new chance here in another promotion. You can't saddle him with what he did before. That's so unfair. And
right.
so many fans I notice on the board, they do this. It's like, oh, well, he's been tainted by WWE, or, oh, he didn't do nothing there. And it's like, give this guy a chance to get there and do some stuff, you know. And I think he'll be great. Even something with him and Ricky Starks might be fun, right? So
absolutely.
Who knows?
And you know what? Because this is not for the main title, it's for the TNT title, honestly, I think any of the 6 could be viable contenders here.
Right. Yeah, which, again, is good, right? You're going into the match and there's not a clear-cut winner. I like that.
One of the matches I'm most looking forward to as actually the 3-way for the tag titles, not just in terms of the in-ring quality, of course, but the potential stories being told here. That said, with the story that continues to build between the Elite, do you find that the champs have kind of been presented as non-factors in this match?
Yeah, this story has taken quite a bit of precedent, right? It really has. It's been, touched on quite a bit. And you're right to a certain degree. The tag champs really have just kind of been sitting around doing nothing. And in fact, I expect them to lose the titles.
Right.
I do expect I expect either the Bucks or Red Dragon to win to carry on that whole program, right? And honestly, I don't know if the Jurassic Express, do they need the titles anymore? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I honestly think they should be separated and Jungle Boy should be moved up the card.
That would, there's an option right there. I think, isn't Luchasaurus' contract is coming up too?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so they might not re-sign him, and now there you go. It's Jungle Boy on his own, right? I mean, they got rid of Marco Stunt.
Yeah.
So maybe that way, but I think they're dropping the belts, and I think I would like to see Red Dragon win them.
I think that makes the most sense to advance the storyline, because if the babyfaces win, then they really have nothing to brag about.
Well, that's it, right? Just think of the promos. It'll be great. Those guys will be out there with the belts, and the Bucks will want the titles, and they'll just be making fun of them and stuff. Because it's Cole that's trying to hold this together, not Red Dragon. They make fun of them all the time. So I think put it on Red Dragon, and then you have a program with the Bucks, and that'll be pretty entertaining.
So there are also 2 women's title matches on the card, with Britt Baker taking on Thunder Rosa, and then of course your favorite Jade defending against Ty Conti. I think it's safe to assume which one of those you'd be most looking forward to.
Of course. I mean, Britt and Thunder Rosa. I mean, the unsanctioned match was awesome. The only thing I found weird was the booking on Wednesday with Thunder Rosa
getting the pin.
Yeah, Thunder Rosa pinned Britt. To me, that means she's not winning the title, and I really think.
Right.
I mean, Britt's had it for a year. She's well established. I was really hoping that they would have Britt strong on Wednesday, and then Thunder Rosa would have the grueling match and get the win. So I'm a little confused by the booking.
Yeah, for me, I'm just looking at the potential challengers for each of them, depending on which scenario they go with. I think Thunder Rosa may have more challengers on the heel side than Britt would on the babyface side.
Right.
But the only because I think Britt's had the title for almost a year. I think she's done just about everything that she can do at this point with her reign. But I don't think I think they could always go the possibility of her blaming one of her associates for losing the title.
Yeah, that's true. They could certainly start something with Jamie Hayter, right? Because the tease has been there already, right? With Hayter kind of being, not really liking having to be her kind of thug for her, right? So
right.
It could go that way. I just thought it was weird on Wednesday with Thunder Rosa getting a clean win on the champ. I'm just like, well, why do I really want to watch the match now? I don't know. I just thought that was really weird. So that one, hopefully they still pull it out with Thunder Rosa, because I agree with you. I think Britt's done all she can as champ, and she doesn't need the title.
Right.
I think it would be nice for Thunder Rosa to have a strong run as champion. And think of the matches, right? Like, you'd have some great matches.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I'd like to see her against, like, Layla Hirsch and stuff like that. I think it would be great.
Or even Mercedes, they can have her turn as well.
Of course. They've had the little thing where they helped each other. Now it's, okay, now you've got the belt, I want the belts. Right? Yeah, that would be great. I love her and Mercedes together. They always have good matches.
Absolutely. Rounding out the card, of course, is the big one for the world title between the two Adams. What have you thought about the overall build, and how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, it's cool. I think some people have kind of found, like, I know Joe has some trouble with this. He has trouble, I think, accepting Adam Page as champion. I don't think he's felt he was strong enough, and there are certainly arguments in that direction. I mean, it's been a rough path. I mean, we had a huge build before he finally built Kenny, and then we had to have that break where his wife had a child, and that stretched it out a bit more. I mean, I like him as champion, but I could see where some people just kind of think he's really not enough of a personality to be your top guy. I mean, he really doesn't cut great promos.
No.
He's not a flashy guy. Yeah, I mean, he's a great in-ring worker. Don't get me wrong.
100%, yeah.
Cole's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But I could see, and especially, hey, if Red Dragon win the tag belts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I could see
that's a good
Cole
point.
winning, and then all of a sudden we've got this dynasty here that are kind of controlling everything.
Right, and then they got the built-in program, too, with Kenny when he comes back.
Yep. Yeah, which I don't know if that's going to be for a while yet, is it?
I haven't heard anything lately.
Yeah, but yeah, I could see Adam, especially like if earlier in the night Red Dragon wins, I could see Adam Cole winning, and then them creating the dynasty just like they did in NXT, right?
Yeah. So like my criticism of Page, like I think he's had a solid run thus far, nothing to be ashamed of. He's definitely had some 5-star matches with like his 2 matches with Bryan Danielson, 2 of the best of all time.
They were excellent.
Yeah, and then like he had, I wasn't as impressed with the match that he had with Kenny. I thought it was good, but like the Danielson match is far outshone that. And then, but with him, I feel like he's the champion, but he's not positioned in such a way where he's like the focus of the show. Like, I feel like there's a couple of other guys and programs that are outshining him at the moment.
Yeah, and I'd say that's fair criticism. I think you're right. It's certainly not like when Kenny was champ, and Kenny kind of was the focus of the shows, right? So that is true. So yeah, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. The thing is, what happens with Adam Page after? Like, I wouldn't. I'm not even sure what program you do with him if he does drop the title.
I mean, I guess if they want to continue building momentum, they could give him MJF, depending on how that feud goes.
Right.
I mean, there are a lot of options. I think there's a lot of top tier heels for him to work with at this point that he doesn't really even need the title. Because like my biggest question in his entire run is like, why even have the title when you're not positioned as the top guy?
Right. Yeah. The focus wasn't. I mean, it's true. I mean, guys like Jericho and that were getting more focus for sure. So yeah, that is a tough one. So I mean, maybe it's time for a change here. I certainly think though, if they put the tag belts on Red Dragon, it would be stupid not to put the belt on Cole.
100%.
You've got some instantly good storytelling you can do there. And like you said, Kenny comes back, Kenny Bucks on one side, Cole, Red Dragon on the other.
So that wraps up another week, and you may be wondering, well, something's missing. Where's the personality profile? Well, it's not missing, it's just reorganized. Starting this week, whenever there is a guest taking the personality profile, it will be a YouTube exclusive. Dan Lovranski was in the hot seat this week and had some pretty interesting responses, so it should be up on YouTube soon. Please continue to show your support by subscribing to my channel and perhaps leave some feedback. On next week's show, I will be chatting all about video games, a favorite pastime for many of us to be sure. And I am joined by another very special guest and one of my longtime friends. You may know him as Kyle Edwards in the WWE, but he will always be Arda Ocal to me, one of the former hosts of Aftermath on The Score for all you Canadian listeners. Arda has also hosted several video game conventions and competitions, so I couldn't think of a better person to discuss that very topic, especially with the launch of the new WWE video game, WWE 2K22, being released later this week. I'll see you next week, but for now, I'll leave you with an ABC.